Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second most engaging podcast you've ever listened to, or rather, the second edition of the most engaging podcast you've ever listened to. I am Mecca, and today we're going to discuss Fire Emblem Engage further. We're going into detail beyond Chapter 9, which is what we ended up with last time with Pavis. So, I guess general spoiler warning for I guess we can call it the mid-game, Chapter 9 onwards to around Chapter 16. Maybe Chapter 17, but I'll give a clear warning if we get into specifics. Today, discussing with me several points is him personally, Professor Bopper. How are you doing, Bopper?
Me personally, I'm doing pretty great today. Thank you for having me on, Mecca.
Do you think we can manage to not kill that joke before we even explain what that is? Me personally, do you think we can keep it fresh?
I will keep it fresh. I will do the dirty work of keeping it fresh because it's been in my vocabulary pretty consistently for like 3 months.
Oh, I can imagine.
Because,
yes.
yes.
Yes. Okay. We're going to get into it, trust me. But first of all, Bopper, I just wanted to ask you, how has your Engage journey been? How are you enjoying your time? What have you been doing?
I've really enjoyed Fire Emblem Engage so far. I still haven't beaten it yet, to be clear. So if we're going to be talking about future mid-game chapters at some point, I've not completed the game. So there's only so far I can go. I've gone as far as we've talked about. But up to where I am right now, I've really enjoyed it. Probably the most, I don't know if I want to say it's the most fun I've had with a Fire Emblem game recently, because there's always going to be the recency bias. It's a new thing. So it's fun to just have new stuff to play. But I've really been enjoying it, probably on par with how I was enjoying Echoes when it was new, which at this point was like 7 years ago.
And when you say you're enjoying it, are you referring to the gameplay, the story, the characters, all of it? What are you specifically enjoying about it?
I'm really enjoying the gameplay. Gameplay is, I think, as fun as we've probably had in the series. It's very, it flows really well. I think there's lots of fun tools, but it's also not overloaded. I've not felt at any point like I've got to stop playing the game for like 20 minutes to just flip through menus or do a lot of work on like minute character building stuff. It's a very snappy game that I've enjoyed, and the story has been fun for the most part. I've liked it well enough. I think it gets the job done. Not infuriating, but I'm probably not going to remember it long term as one of my favorite Fire Emblem stories.
Yeah, that's about the impressions that I got and that Pavis got last week as well. It's just really enjoyable gameplay, very fun. So you're up to like around chapter 20, I think is what you said.
Yeah, I just completed chapter 20 today, but I'll stay off that topic.
Curiously, what difficulty are you playing on? Because I'm playing on hard, but I saw you switch it up a couple times.
I was initially going to play maddening, but I switched back to hard before I even started, mostly because I find that as I'm getting just every year, as I get like just a little bit older and a little bit older, my interest in playing harder difficulties in games just wanes and wanes and wanes, because I could beat Engage on maddening if I really wanted to, but it would probably add an additional 15 hours to the runtime, and I'm just not interested in that. Not anymore, that I have to like juggle playing the game on my own time and then streaming it and then trying to make videos about it and then doing everything else like working a job every day. I'm not touching maddening. That's a summer break thing. Give it a few months, maybe then I'll look into it. But hard classic for now for me.
Yeah, that's about the same reasoning that I use. Plus, you can always go to Manding in the future, right? If you had a good time with hard, you're used to everything, you just go up to Manding and have a whole new palette of options laid in front of you while you're familiar with the systems. And I really appreciate what you're saying about runtime, especially like how much time it takes to play Madden, because I'm playing on hard, but I still have like recordings of somewhere between an hour and 2 hours for just one chapter because I have to show off the story and everything. It's a very short game. They're very short videos.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah. I've been recording my whole playthrough as well, not to like upload a Let's Play like what you're doing, but just so I have footage of the game.
Yeah.
And like my chapter 17 recording was 2 hours and 50 minutes long on hard mode. If that was
I beat your
mode,
time. I got 2 hours.
Okay. I'm glad someone was able to, but I don't know. Are you playing with animations on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I am too. Dang, I thought I might have had you there for a
Uh,
second, but no.
I turn animations off when I rewind and replay a turn. That's about it. Everything else is animations on.
Yeah, I don't go through that. I'm like, it would be quicker for me to just mash the skip button, but then this game also like is terrible about letting you do that. I feel like I'm mashing the start button like 6 times
Oh
before it
yeah.
skips one animation.
I hold
This
A
feels
by
like a
accident
speedrunner's
sometimes.
nightmare game.
Yeah. The black screen, the skipping game.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing I was wondering about. So when I first started playing, and I was discussing this with Pavis last time, we enjoyed the Somniel, the hub world, where you just kind of go and
Hmm.
do chilling things and fish and everything. And we're like, yeah, it's all right. It's pretty short. It's skippable if you want to, but generally you'll want to do it because you want to pick up bond fragments, interact with all the systems in there. And it was kind of all right. And with Three Houses in the hub world there, I was kind of tired of it like halfway through the game. Like before the part one ended, I was like kind of fed up with it. And here I'm kind of like mixed on Somniel now, whereas earlier I was like super positive about it or like I didn't mind it. Now I'm like, I kind of wish I didn't have to do this. But at the same time, after a long, grueling chapter 17, I do like still coming back to it and just running around picking up ingots and whatever else you can get, which is very
One
weird. It's like,
iron ingot. Thanks,
yeah,
dog.
curious. Thank you, dog. Thank you. Yeah. So, how do you feel about Somniel, and has it changed throughout your run when you're playing?
So the Somniel reminds me a lot of like if you ever start like a new job and
Oh,
the first day you're like, I really like this. This is such an improvement on what we had before. And even the drive is better. And then you do it, and one day passes, and one day passes, and another day, and another day, and another day, and another day, and you're just like, oh my God, it's getting worse each time. And now early on, I was super enthusiastic about it. And now I'm like, oh, okay, here we go to the Somniel. I have to feed the dog. I have to pet the dog. I have to pick up the scraps left by the dog. I have to do the push-ups, the sit-ups, the squats. I've got to go to the
wait, you
arena.
do
I've
all
got to
those
go to
all
the
every
ring
time?
room.
Sorry, I'm just curious. Are you doing
Uh,
you're doing them all the time? All
I gotta pick up the nuts. Got to pick up the oranges.
it's also the same stuff
Well,
every time, like in the same
it is the
places.
same. It is the exact same stuff in the exact same place every single time. If I want to go to the blacksmith, I have to go to the Somniel. I can't do it in the battle prep menu because this is a new innovation, I guess.
That guy's just too lazy
After
to come with you.
yes, for the laziest blacksmith we've ever had. At this point, I don't do everything anymore. Like I don't do the workout mini games. I never fish. Um, but like I can't not like pick up the items.
Same, exact same.
I can't. I see the golden dot. They're golden. They could have made them like a less interesting color, but they made them gold, so I have to grab them. Maybe this time it won't be nuts. What if there's money over there now?
What if it's a shiny nut? You don't
Yeah.
know.
What you really don't. What if I need this half a level? What if this half a level I get from the arena on this one character will set up a level later that'll give me that defense point that I'm going to need to survive this boss? I don't know. I think being a first playthrough that also hurts because I don't know what's coming. On a second playthrough, and I've been working on a second playthrough while streaming an Iron Man of it. I've done the Somniel less because I know like at that point of the game I don't need it. But in my first playthrough, it's like, uh, what if I need it? If I need this 2 strength from doing push-ups?
I'm hoping to
Well,
get to a point where I can plan out most of the game and be like, okay, this is the amount of bond fragments
mhm.
I need for the whole game. I could just do it a couple times and then I'm done. I have everything I
Yeah,
need for the rest of the game. That's the point I'm
yeah.
hoping to get to. But right now, I can't leave it alone. I have severe FOMO issues.
Yes, that is that's the best way to put it. FOMO is like holding me hostage with the Somniel right now, and it makes it not as fun as it should be. The Somniel is also the more you mess around with it, the worse you realize its layout is.
Really?
Just because of, well, I mean, on one serious thing, which is the arena and the ring chamber.
Oh yeah, yeah. We discussed that very
Why?
elaborately last week. That should have been
Yeah,
one room.
I know you
Period.
all talked about it, so I didn't want to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up anyway, just as a measure of my contempt
It's that bad.
because it's so bad. Because you don't even have to beat them in the arena fight; you could just buy it. I've definitely become one of those people that's like, let's go back to Tellius menu. Just give me text boxes, click arena, go.
Yeah, the base is much more smooth there. I
Yes.
think a friend of mine, Kirby Master, was trying to figure out if winning the arena actually gave you more XP. It took a lot of effort to turn a losing battle into a winning one. He had to make like a massive forge and everything to do it. And he figured out that yes, winning does give a little bit more
It
XP.
does.
So enjoy your suffering trying to
Yeah.
optimize it.
This is the optimal level Vander early game strat, apparently. So
Yeah, I use it now to level up my dancer personally.
yeah. Well,
Okay.
those seed all levels are going to come in big handy.
Yeah, I've heard that they will. Apparently, he
Yeah,
gets a good skill later on. I don't know what skill. I definitely haven't peeked at
I don't
all.
know.
No, I'm playing hell yeah, very
No.
blind.
I genuinely have no idea.
Hmm
I guess he will get one. It's probably going to be gross, but he
It's
gets 80
4 This is how
XP
you
per
get 4
dance. Oh shit! They're finally giving it to me. Is it
Uh-huh,
on the Sigurd paralog?
for sure. So there is one thing about I guess the system that I wanted to talk with you because we didn't get a chance to discuss it last time since it was too fresh. Because this is something that people have a bit of an issue with, which is the economy, basically the gold currency as well as the SP system. Because I don't think they're perfect, but I understand the choices that they've made within it, I guess, and everything I can think of that would like improve it. It would change it in ways that they might not have intended. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on those. I guess we could start with gold if you want to, because I'm assuming you got all the big gold dumps at this point, right?
Yeah, I just got a mega gold dump,
Mm-hmm. Got bribed.
and yeah, like so. I guess this also goes back to the playing on hard versus maddening thing, which is that I've heard a lot of people saying money in the economy is crazy in Engage, but completely unaware of how much money I even have. Partially that's because I was like, I've got to do the YouTuber thing, so I'm going to get the day one DLC so that I have
Oh,
all content for stream. So here's the silver card. Now
oh,
I don't
right.
know if you're familiar with it, but the way you get the silver card is actually hilarious. And
Yeah,
it's
I'm familiar
uh
with it. You can tell
yeah,
though.
it's um
The paralog,
so I
right?
have it's the Tiki paralog, and you have to use warp or rewarp to get it, and they don't tell you that it's there.
Oh no.
And I love that because this goes back to like some of the DLC that like a lot like From Software does. Like if you buy the DLC for Dark Souls, they don't even tell you where in the game it is. You have to go find it. And I just love little things like that. But I had that, and I just never check the shop. I don't buy things.
So you don't know
I
how
think
much money you have. You don't know what you can buy with it. That sucks.
yeah,
Damn.
it does suck in a
Engage bad.
way. Yeah, Engage is really bad. Well, but I haven't felt the need to go do it. I think like with Three Houses, so like Echoes didn't have shops. It just
It
had
has a blacksmith,
forging.
but that's about it.
Yeah, so just forging, which like, but you don't have to like update, and you don't have to go buy new
No.
weapons. And then Three Houses had like a single armory, and then Engage has the single armory. So I just never check because when like they were in the maps, or it was like Awakening where it would be like on a new place in the overworld, I would always get this kind of feed of, oh, here's what's available now. But I don't keep going into the army and be like, do they sell silver lances now? I'm just like, I'm just gonna roll with my +5 iron lance and see how long this will take us.
If you talk to the guy, he'll be like, "Oh, I have new stock. Check it out." But then you're
Yeah.
already talking to him anyway, so you might as well check it in the first place. You should have like a little
Yeah.
text box above his head that's like, "Hey, I got new stuff. Come check out my shop."
Yeah, if there was like a little notification, like a little exclamation point, instead of putting where the nuts are on the map, put a big gold exclamation point over the armor and being like, I got new items, and maybe then I'd check. So I don't know. I haven't had the economy issue. I know doing the political bribery is
Yeah, I
expensive,
call it that too.
but it's not it's not so bad. I just got everywhere up to level 2,
Oh
and
wow,
that
that's
was
more than I did.
enough. Yeah.
I brought Brody up to level 2, and everyone else is like, "Oh, go do your own stuff." Like Solm was explicitly saying, "Hey, we don't help other countries." It's like, "All right, that's cool. I'll
Yeah.
keep my 40K."
We just gave you 40K. You want to give some of that back? No,
No. I
not
don't need a
happening.
camel. I have my dogs. Thank you. Very cool.
Do camels dig up silver ingot? I don't think so.
The game kind of convinces you that it will pay itself back, because why else would you give 10K to a country after already giving them 5K? And then because you get so much gold at once, you literally get like, I think it's like 5K, then 10K, then 20K, then 40K or something. It's kind of like the game is saying, hey, you should probably put some of that into bribery, because why else would it be there? But it really is not very handy. I think to some extent it's nice to get extra ingots, but there's only so much of that you need. I usually do run out of ingots, so I might have needed to donate a little bit more if I wanted to forge more. But I don't know. Generally, I think I'm fine with the amount of weapon might I'm getting in battles. So I don't know. I think the gold system is fine because you do get a lot of options to spend your things on. Like if you want to, I know you said you don't buy anything, but for me, I'm always like, I'm trying to keep like 10k as a nice reserve in case I want to really buy something useful. But there's like warp staffs in the shop for me now. There's like a rewarp staff. There's like a free staff. Generally, staffs are just really expensive. There's forges cost a lot of money, especially in the higher tiers. There's always something to buy. So economy-wise, if you don't spend your money on bribery, you can still run. Also, you can buy tonics, and tonics are like infinitely useful. You can use a tonic on someone on every map, and that's about 150 gold per tonic, I believe. So if you buy, if you were to like boost a single unit with all their stats, that'd be like 1k per unit per map. That adds up really fast if you're deploying like 5 units. So there's like a lot of ways to spend your gold in this game, and I kind of like it. But I think the way that the bribery was advertised kind of ruins it for some people, and it makes them do horrible things, like thinking they might have to train up the poor Anna with her 3% despoil ability. Poor people. I can't imagine what they're going through.
Yeah. I haven't used a single tonic either. I'm an unintelligent gamer. I guess maybe I should get some luck tonics for Ivy or something, but
I get a luck tonic would not save Ivy, let me tell you that.
No, this game's full of a cast full of Sacred Stones tier luck characters where everyone's just got 1% crit on them at all times. But like,
except Ivy,
I guess the other
she faces like
is
10% instead.
Yeah, just casually. It's like, okay, someone that Erica inherent skill of dodge plus 10 found its home. But I think also if you play online, which I do, and you've got like the little spirit orbs there, and like all the purple ones are just like, here's 1,000,000 slim lances and short knives, and then you've got that for also just passive infinite income where you just sell all those off. Because it's not like Fates where you need multiple of them to forge. So I don't know. I feel like the money, it's if you have online and DLC, money doesn't exist. If you refrain from all that, then money's really tight. And also the political bribery is just really disappointing. The impression I had when they first showed it off was that it would be like passive income. Like every chapter, you would get this amount of stuff dumped into your storeroom in exchange for what you did. So if you spend it early, you'll get more in the long run.
Yeah.
Like every chapter, you get 2 steel ingots dumped into your storeroom, but it's just if you want to go grind, I guess.
Yeah, or I think if a map plays out in Brodia and you've donated to Brodia, you do get more ingots from that, but you have no idea when it's going to happen. It's probably like paralogs and stuff, and maybe some random battle where you end up there. But yeah, I agree. It definitely gives up the vibe of like, you should do this early. You should invest early. Get in early. Definitely not a Ponzi scheme or anything. No. I've about your point about selling the stuff you get from the glowing orbs. I might not pick them up as often as I should. Usually too busy like securing map objectives with like 99% certainty instead of just moving a unit to a yellow thing or a purple thing. But yeah,
the yellow things are too scary to move to.
That's true.
I love it. We have like everyone's died. So I'm like that. Don't go there.
I love it when you have like a big line of like yellow things in a row. It's like, oh, I think I found the boss, guys. I've definitely had like a moment where I sold 6 surges at once because I just like, I'm never going to use this thing. But the amount of money you get for that, you can probably buy tonics for it, like a couple tonics, but it's not enough to compensate for a dog donation. Let me just put it that way.
No.
The other system that I thought might be good to discuss, we didn't really talk about it at all, is the skill inheritance system. So like the SP and the bond fragments, because we already said the reason we have bond fragments in abundance probably is because we're FOMOers. So we just pick up all the bond fragments we find. I'm so glad that you get all of them at the end of a chapter when you just leave. But can we do the same everywhere else, please? Everywhere else we can get bond fragments, because those are not really an issue.
And the item pickups too, please. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, definitely. Especially the item pickups. That's the whole problem. Is like not getting those. That's why I pick up all the poop after every battle.
Yeah.
But
so much horse manure.
Yeah, I think the main thing I've seen flack for is SP, because SP, it feels like one of those things. The game is like incentivizing you, or it's like encouraging you, hey, go experiment with all these crazy skills and engage rings. And the engage rings themselves are super flexible, but in order to inherit skills, what you have to do is first build up a bond with the emblem ring, through the emblem arena or whatever using bond fragments or just using them in battle a lot. And
Or
then
polishing them.
yeah, and polishing them. I need to do that, by the way. Thanks for reminding me. And then what you do is you go to the famous, because then you go to the arena, and then you go to the ring chamber to inherit the skills, and you pay for those skills using SP. And every unit has an individual SP pool, which is kind of cool. But the problem is that kind of like if you spend most of your SP, you're probably not going to get it back to get more skills. So once you're locked into a skill that you're inheriting and you're like out of SP, it takes so much to grind it back up because SP increases so slowly for units. So oftentimes if you've screwed up a unit with their inheritance, you're better off just ditching them, getting another unit instead, because new units join with like 2000 plus SP, whereas a unit you've used all the way through doesn't even have that much. So it feels like it kind of goes against the nature of the game wanting to experiment. I get that it's different. Experimentation in a different way, right? It's because, just experiment with different units, Lamo. But it feels a bit bad to just, what if you inherit the skill that turns out to be bad? Then you're just kind of shit out of luck. But I also get why they made it that way. What do you think about this?
I like the skill inheritance system a lot. And I think the SP is a problem, I think, mostly just for early game units, because I think someone in a stream chat had told me this. I don't know if this is 100% the way it works, but it's that SP you get at the same rate as you get EXP. And if you don't have an engage ring on, you get it at half EXP, which is why it builds so slow, because EXP in this game is just so small.
Yeah.
There is like a little bit of there is a little cushion for some skills. So like if you get Marth's Avoid plus 10, it's like 100, and then Avoid plus 15 will be 100 less. So it's like you're long-term investing in Avoid plus 15.
Yeah.
But you're kind of locked into that tree. Overall, like I haven't had too much of like an issue with it, because I don't find any of the skills in the game to be at least obviously broken. The only one I really had to had to save up for that I really wanted was to get Resolve.
Oh yeah.
That one was pretty much the only one where I was like, I have to consciously like save up for it.
Is it 2000s for Resolve?
It's 2000.
Uh-huh.
And probably not worth it, because I'm going to forget about it, and Diamant's going to be there at the correct HP value, and I'm just going to be like, oh, he's hurt, I got to go heal him.
Right out of Resolve range.
Yes. Right. And it's only plus 5 defense, and then the enemy comes in with like a silver great sword, and it's like, oh, he's going to die anyway. But I love the skill inheritance system, because at first I was like, why do we only get 2 skill slots? But it minimizes like skill emblem. Skill emblem is like way gone, which I like, not because I disliked skill emblem, but it only really worked on the 3DS because of just the unique interface that a touchscreen could give you. It was super quick and easy to like, you could see so much information at once without ever touching anything in Fates. And it was like just one touch of the screen to see like all the information on it. Whereas like 3 Houses, it's like you have to open up the menu, and then you have to do like 3. It was like 4 button presses to start to see skills.
Yeah.
So it pulled that back a lot, and it also made getting the skills less grindy, I think, in general, than what we had in 3 Houses.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because it was like I want Savage Blow. I think that's what it was. Whatever the plus 6 attack Brigand
Death Blow,
is.
yeah,
It's
from
like
Brigands.
Yeah, I gotta get Death Blow for everyone, because of course I do. So now I gotta grind Axes, and then I gotta grind Brigand, and there's no way to really expedite that process outside of the Knowledge Ring, which you don't get until later. And then it's just still grinding, but at half price. And now it's just, I can just go to the arena, buy whatever levels I need, and then dump the SP that builds as a universal currency into whatever I want. And honestly, there's dozens and dozens of skills in this game. Most of them seem like dog water. So I haven't been too upset that, like, what if I need staff rank Micaiah? Like, I've not been too worried about it.
I get that. I get that POV. I do think that the UI for this game is pretty good for a single screen. Like, you can definitely get a lot of information from just what they have. Obviously, there is a lot of like gripes you can have about the UI, but with regards to like skills, I do agree that like less skill emblem is good. Let me put that first. I do agree that only having two definitely makes things less complicated, and it lets you focus on other things than just checking every enemy for skills. You can check so many things in this game by just a simple moving around your cursor, thankfully. And as for, I do agree that it's nice and quick. If you want to get a skill and you have the SP for it, it's very easy to just get it. You don't have to spend a lot of time with it. I do wish that when you go into the arena to get to do a bond battle or whatever it's called with your favorite emblem to get it, what's the point of the battle? Why are they battling? You don't get XP for winning or losing. It's just a battle.
No, you should just get the conversation. Here, I paid you. Be my friend now.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you're working on those muscles, ATA. Yeah, I am. Thanks. Level 5. You can now inherit its Speed Taker. Congrats. Yay.
Kagetsuo just asked a ghost if they'd go out with him.
Yeah.
Oh, this is deep.
I saw that too. Stuff like that. It's smooth in that way, so it does have its advantages. I guess a question I got posed to you is I was discussing this with some other people, and I was like, it would be kind of cool if it was like Radiant Dawn, where you could equip a skill, and then if you decided you don't like it, you can unequip it and get your SP back. Do you think that would make it worse or better? It'd be different, like for sure.
I think that would make it. I think that would make it better. I definitely think that'd make it better because I'm trying to think of some, as if SP was like your capacity, and you built
exactly
that,
like Radiant Dawn
instead of it being a spent currency. Because there are a lot of even strategy games that like have that system where you have like an upgrade tree and you can just pull everything off of it and you get everything back.
Yeah, Hades has that kind of.
Yeah. Mario and Rabbids has that. And if that has it, everything should.
I remember that skill tree in that game. Yeah, for sure. Of course, like doing it that way has advantages and disadvantages as well. It makes it easy to experiment, and it puts less of a hurdle, I think, in place, like a mental hurdle to try out a skill. Because right now I'm looking at my menu. I just got a couple new emblem rings, and I'm like, well, I could get the skill now, but I'm not 100% sure if I want it. Especially because like some skills, they don't stack if you already have the emblem on them, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have that unit always have the emblem ring or if they're going to have it off. And if I spend 1,000 on Sigurd to get Cantor, but it turns out I'm going to keep Sigurd on that unit anyway, then I wasted SP, and 1,000 SP is so much. I'm never going to get that back in the whole game. They're not going to be able to get any other skills, but at that point, they're kind of locked into that, and I don't like that feeling. But at the same time, committing to it might put you in an avenue where you're experimenting with other strategies instead. In some way, I do think permanence has like it adds other things, so I'm not entirely sure if it's worse overall. Yeah. I just think within this game, that's all about experimentation for me, with like the time crystal being there and everything else being reversible, like being able to switch emblem rings around. I think it would fit in there. So I guess I just have a problem with committing to things. I guess that's it. That might be it.
Yeah, I could see that. But also considering some of the things that happen towards the mid game in regards to skills you have access to.
Yeah.
That also makes that kind of interesting, like planning out future runs and how I would want to buy things. The skills that are like really good to buy are the ones like the only ones I've been really dying for are like ones like Avoid plus 10 or plus 15. Just things to make, if I just never get hit, if this is just a no-hit run, now I don't have to worry about any of these other skills. So
exactly,
especially because supports are also really powerful in this game, I came to realize.
Maybe this is a good time to dive into specifics because you brought up the chapter 10-ish events. So I suppose this will be the last spoiler warning you get before the mid game. Things happen after chapter 9 that you do not want to know if you're still planning on playing this game. So all right. Okay. I think they're gone. I think the people who don't want spoilers, they might be gone.
They are gone. Goodbye.
Yeah, they're gone. Yes. Goodbye retention rates. So
YouTube, no.
YouTube. Chapter 10 hits, and then chapter 11, and they take away all your emblem rings. You start from scratch. You escape with chapter 11 with just Lynn and Lucina in your pocket, and they have chapter 11 built around the enemies using emblem rings around you.
Yes.
Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool.
Yes, I really like Chapter 11, and I like its implications on the whole playthrough. Just to run through thoughts really quick, I don't like that they tell you you're about to go through 2 chapters in a row that don't have a break. Are you sure you want to proceed? That's weak. That'd be like you're playing Thracia, and the bad guys come up to Leaf and they're like, Leaf, buddy, it's chapter 3. And they're like, I just want you to be aware, like, you're going to want to organize your inventory real nice because you're about to have a couple chapters in a row where you're not going to have access to your convoy. And you're like, oh, thanks. But so I don't really like that. But what I do love is that with chapter 11, so you lose everything. You spend the whole game up to that point building up this little army of engage rings. It's the MacGuffin, and we're collecting them.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like you're getting powerful. Then they take everything away. They give you a taste of what being a fully operational battle station is going to be like. And they're like, okay, you want it back? You have to prove you don't need it first. But also, it gives a chance for engage rings, like, because there's like 12 or so in the game. And if they just gave them to you linear straight through, a lot of the late game ones, your Ericas and Lucinas and Byleths, nobody would touch because they'd probably already have like attachments to using Marth or whatever. It'd already be on people. There's no holes they have to fill. And so it gives a lot of those mid-game rings a chance to actually be useful.
Yeah, those rings are not very, like, particularly Lucina doesn't feel very powerful to me. Like, I've had a couple chapters where I'm like, well, I'm literally not getting anything out of having this ring right here, but it's the only one I got besides Lynn, so yeah. I guess I'll try my best with it. I think that's fun. It's also just good that the enemy gets to use them against you like that. Like, there's because there's, for example, there's a Celica guy, the Celica monster just keeps teleporting to you, and then you kill them, you're like, okay, thank God, that's out of the way. And then Phil's like, haha, no, and he puts him on a new enemy. It's more. Like, oh, shit.
Oh, this is just a piece of jewelry.
Yeah.
You can pass it around.
Because she has the time crystal. They take away your time crystal as well. They're like, yeah, you can't rewind. This is an Iron Man run now, or something. Like, not really, but suddenly the stakes are higher. And I played chapter 11, and it went pretty well without the time crystal, but it was pretty anxious because it felt like I was playing an Iron Man, but everything was going well. And it's like, at any moment now, I can make a fuck up, and it'll cost me so much of my life having to redo it, and it sucks. But I'm in the mode now, like I'm in the zone, so I'm in the flow of like nothing can go wrong, but if something goes wrong, oh boy, are we screwed. If I overlook anything, it's going to be bad. And this game, after holding your hand with a time crystal for like 8 chapters, that is a difficult thing to get used to, but thank God you get it back at the very end when things get tense.
Yes, it is great. Ryan, chapter 11 in a lot of ways is like, I feel like it's suggestively difficult.
Yes.
It's not actually, at least on hard mode, it's not that hard. It reminds me a lot of the, like, thinking of Thracia, the Avel prison room in chapter 5, where there's really not a threat there, but the game doesn't tell you it's not difficult, and you're just like, oh fuck, we gotta go because she's gonna get killed in there. Even though obviously there's no actual danger, it puts it in your brain. I think that's what 11 does. Is it's like, oh no, they've got it.
It feels more dangerous than it actually is. That said, if you're listening and you're like, well, I actually had a lot of trouble with that chapter, I get that because people I've been talking to say, like, for example, Soan said she actually had a lot of struggle with it because in her case, I think she triggered a cutscene earlier, and so the Four Hounds activated earlier, so they were way closer to her units than they were for me. So that changes the chapter a lot. So it definitely depends on how you play the chapter. I think she rushed more. Or she stayed back more, one of the two things. I wish she did things differently than I did. And because of that, the whole chapter changes. Because you can imagine how different that chapter is if you don't get Ivy and friends at a convenient point and you don't have your time crystal, things just go weird. So don't feel bad if it was different for you. But yeah, that chapter is definitely a good example of the game posing less of a threat than it seems to.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's perfectly fine. That it's not just the most hardcore experience all the time, especially because especially for newer players to the series, to have your turn wheel just pulled away. I feel naked without this. I've never not had it, and now you don't. The only bad thing that happened to me on that map was Alfred dying, but that honestly felt more like a favor than anything else.
I don't have to keep him alive anymore. It's a relief.
Alfred doubled for one final time.
Poor guy. There was one more thing I wanted. Oh yeah, there's just the way that the emblem rings are used in the enemies is so funny. Like, it's like a cavalier with a cigarette on. It's just like rushing you down all the time.
That's what killed Alfred. The Rider's Bane immediately. I don't even think he needed the effective damage either.
Nah. Alfred could have stalwart; it wouldn't make a difference. Still die.
Ooh, actually, I want to recant a little bit on what I said, because there is one condition that could make chapter 11 really difficult. It actually made it harder for me because in chapter 10 I had Citrine die, and I was like, I don't care. I didn't even time crystal for her. I was like, whatever. You got killed by Hortensia, you deserve it. I'm moving on. And then they're just like, you can't bring reinforcements. You don't get your other. You're locked into your army.
Right. They didn't even give you a prep screen. 10. It's just, here you go.
Yeah. Well, you get a prep screen specifically so that it blacks out swap spaces or a deployment.
Oh, yeah.
It's right. too bad, I guess.
Can you swap spaces?
I guess you can swap spaces.
Okay.
It's not like 24th Thracia or 21 or whichever one that one is.
Thracia in general.
Yes. Well, I would say that, and then there's a later chapter in the game where one of the bosses starts warping enemies at you, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one thing that really helped me for that chapter was that I just promoted my Elir, so I had one more movement to work with, and it was easier to rush down to the escape points, because I think the victory condition is Elir escapes, right? So
yeah,
I was like literally within exactly 5 movement of the seize tile when the time came, and then Ivy came in as well. Like, it was just super clutch all around. Really good feeling all around. Really good chapter feel, you might say.
Yes, really good map feel. Good thing it's not escape all units.
Oh god,
that probably would have been the better decision.
Nah, you don't have to leave Ender anymore. They can't do that. While we're on the chapter 10-11 arc, I think it might be fun to bring up, if it were me actually, and the story of the game in general. I'm sorry, I mispronounced your little thing, but you have plenty of chances to correct me.
Yeah,
so
it's fine.
So this game's story and characters, we've already kind of gone over how it's kind of like, it's fine, but it's nothing groundbreaking. It's just kind of there. You can kind of look away at the screen and look back at the screen. You haven't really missed anything for a couple seconds. It's going almost exactly as you predicted, with a couple of outliers. And one of those, I guess, is chapter 10 and 11, where things take a twist. And I was wondering, you probably saw some of the discourse online about exactly how bad this game's story is supposedly. It actually today, I think someone posted a thread on the subreddit that's like, on Metacritic, this is now the lowest rated Fire Emblem story, or the lowest rated Fire Emblem game, I should say. They rate they rate everything at once, of course, on Metacritic. So last time I talked about this game with Pavius, wow, that's the weirdest pronunciation I've ever done of his name.
Yeah.
We were both like, yeah, it's fine. I said I would prefer if the next game was a bit more serious again, like Three Houses tried to do. He was like, I'm fine with this direction. So where do you stand on that? Do you think this is kind of a good direction for the series to take with this kind of story, or would you prefer something more like older, more serious entries?
Well, I mean, if the arc of the series is any indication, then I don't think that this is necessarily a trend, because the series has kind of gone. This is definitely the silliest the series has ever had. Definitely the campiest game, story wise. But I think that's purely from you're summoning ghosts of other characters from the series. I think it's purely for the 30th anniversary celebration aspect of it that it is a little campier. I think for me, the big thing that I hope they keep with is just telling a single linear story. Because what kills Fates to some extent, and especially Three Houses for me, is that they are super ambitious games. I think people will give a lot of credit to Three Houses for being ambitious as it is. But you end up with a story that realistically is going to take you 250 to 300 hours to actually experience, and it's not even really cohesive, and there's a lot of repeating bits because it tried to be so much more than it could be, and this game feels very self-contained. It knows what it is, and it embraces that. And I get for some people that's going to be disappointing because Three Houses points to more potential because it is ambitious of being this more grand war story. But also I think that this shows the value in just telling a straight narrative, or more specifically one that doesn't have branching paths, because even something like Radiant Dawn, not to get lost in the Three Houses rabbit hole, but had, if you kept that kind of structure, it's you bounce between different armies and different parts. And so that's what I like about Engage, is that we're refocused. It's not as good as something like Genealogy or Echoes, but I like the simplicity of it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think almost everyone I've talked to agrees that a single path direction is much better for everything. Like it just takes up less resources on their end, and it just makes everything more cohesive. I have one question for you about the part where you, it's not exactly the wording you use, but it's something else I've seen around a lot, where some people are saying that the game knows what it is. It's aware of its own silliness, basically. But I've seen some people argue that that is not the case. So what are your arguments for why it is that way? How do you tell a game that's self-aware from one that isn't in regards to like how silly the story is?
That's a really good question. Honestly, I think for me, it's like a tonal thing. The fact that the very first decision Alir makes in the game is run, um, is like just a really good moment of levity where you don't usually get it in these games. Because like with Three Houses, we have very self-serious characters, Edelgard, Dimitri. Like these are very serious people doing serious business, and it's serious business all the time. In the
Yes.
main story, supports obviously will always be an exception that are kind of hard to account for, but so maybe it knows what it is sort of, you can't really prove that because you'd have to go into the brains of the people that like
Oh yeah.
made it.
I didn't mean to put you on a spot, like prove that it is that
Yeah.
way, but more like
No,
what makes you
well,
feel that way? More like.
yeah. So I think it's the fact that it has like a much more comfortable tone and it isn't trying to push beyond what it is. There isn't a mismatch in final product and ambition that there is in Three Houses and Fates.
That's fair. I think personally for me that is part of why it doesn't really bother me that it is what it is. I am kind of rolling my eyes sometimes at the story. I'm like, okay, this is happening now. Sure, I'll roll with it, but it's not like some moments don't really feel earned to me, but it's still not bothering me as much as, for example, Fates, where it feels a bit more disingenuous sometimes. That's the thing I'm getting. But I brought up Fates. How's that for a bridge?
Ooh.
So let's, for a moment, talk about that thing we've been not so subtly hinting about for about 43 minutes. So you recently wrote and published a video essay about Corrin, and I think it was about how Corrin is not as bad of a character as some people seem to be, and the whole issue of, well, if it were me personally. Can you briefly explain what that was about? What was that analysis?
Yeah. So basically, my conclusion was that Corrin is a poorly written character, but not for the reasons that a lot of people put on it. Because what tends to happen is that people, when they criticize stories or characters, they'll hyper focus in on like specific decisions that characters would make that they would make differently. And this is across all mediums. And you end up with a lot of criticism where people say basically, if that were me personally in this situation, I would have done this. I would have killed Hans at the end of chapter 13. And they sort of write that up as a criticism of the character, because a lot of Corrin criticism is like, well, Corrin doesn't do the right thing regarding Hans. Whereas my approach is more like, okay, Corrin does not kill Hans. What do we learn? What do we know about Corrin from that? And does that make the story more engaging or the character more engaging? Or what can we pull away from that, knowing that this is a person that is going to make this kind of mistake and not going to have the fortitude to do that, because in the case of Corrin, it's going to point towards their relationship with Garen, towards Xander, towards what even their mission is and their own like lack of fortitude in there. Obviously, the problem in Fates is that the story never forces Corrin to deal with their flaws because Corrin's an avatar and the game doesn't want to criticize Corrin, because if you criticize the avatar, you're criticizing the player. The player made the avatar, customized it, gave him the voice, gave him the design. So we don't want to do that. So the video was more like it was pushing back against the idea of, well, if that were me personally, as a mode of critique. And also kind of subtly at like, we should stop doing avatar characters because it makes writing video games impossible.
The reason I'm bringing it up is obviously this is all about Fates, but I think some of the criticism I'm getting in my head for this game when I'm looking at this game is I look at some of the decisions the characters make and I'm thinking, well, you're forgetting about something super huge and obvious. I feel like you should have at least mentioned that and then find an excuse for why it doesn't matter, or just finding things a bit silly. Like, just basically, I think that if a story has a bunch of characters that are doing things because the plot needs to move along, as opposed to having legit reasons for things, I think that makes it a bit harder to enjoy. I think that makes it a bit worse. But I remember hearing your video essay and thinking, well, that is definitely some of the criticisms I've had of stories in the past. Like, for example, I made a series about the FE7 story, and a lot of that was definitely like, oh, this character definitely made a dumb decision. But depending on the situation, I think it's still a valid criticism sometimes. It just kind of depends, like you said, on the consequences of it. And I think in this game, there's definitely a couple moments where I'm like, well, this character definitely could have made a better decision, and no one seems to bring it up. I haven't read too much online about the Engage story because most of it is black bars I don't want to click, aka spoilers. But I was wondering, have you seen like anyone going like, well, if that were me personally about this story, for example?
Not so much. I haven't looked at a lot of the story criticism of Engage because I haven't finished it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to refrain from criticizing the story too much anyway for like those things, just because I don't know where it ends. Because one of the big things that I talk about in that video essay is that you can't really talk about isolated scenes because you have the context of the whole game. And
Yeah.
I don't know if this game has like a serious turn when there's like 3 chapters left, probably won't if I had to guess, but I don't know, where suddenly some of those things that maybe were like, why didn't characters think about this, come back to actually like cause problems, that would change it entirely. So that's kind of why I'm sort of restraining from it. And then there's also like the tone thing of like FE7 story is really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of, when I've experienced it, I experience it like Saturday morning cartoon tone.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I'm going to be a little more forgiving on this stuff because they're going for more goofball adventure here.
Say with this game, right?
Yeah, same with this game. I do think this game's story does have presentation problems because this Koei Tecmo Warriors engine is trash.
God, yeah, for sure.
When King Hyacinth meets his unfortunate fate and we snap cut to everyone on the across the room, even though we got a dragon running around straight up eating people, and they're like, they're just standing there. I'd be running.
There's also a lot of people giving each other
personally, I'd be running.
Yeah, very personally, I would cut back to the dragon.
Yeah, clear it up. If that were me personally, isn't saying if that were me personally as the writer.
Yeah, no, I'm
referring to if that
I
were
was
me
making a
personally
dumb joke. I was making it more confusing.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, no, you're good. I just want to make this clear, because it's like characters can still do stupid things that we criticize. I just don't like the idea of, if I were in this, I would have done better because I am better.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than approaching it from like what the game itself is giving you. Because if the game is giving you, we've shut the doors and now we're suddenly outside, somehow we got away, even though that doesn't make sense. That's not the same as saying, well, if that were me in there, I would have done better, and that's why the game sucks.
And I guess a better point, for example, would be, you have, after Chapter 11, the gang escapes, Aaliyah escapes with 2 emblem rings. And the Hounds and Somniel and all, they decide that to get the rings, they'll just let Aaliyah and friends collect them, and then they'll go get them back later. They do absolutely nothing for like 5 chapters straight. And the biggest offender of this is Somniel, because the others at least pop up every now and then to say and do something. Yeah. Somniel just disappears from the stage. I haven't seen him in 6 chapters. What is that guy doing? They even say that he can move now because they did a ritual or something. So now he can move around. But he doesn't do anything. And that seems like a bad decision to me. I think I could have made better decisions if I was Somniel.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it could be the game is a framing problem, because like I wasn't thinking about that so much, but like if the game made a big point, he can move, he can do whatever he wants now, but he's choosing not to. Could actually be a really terrifying thing of like, what's he planning?
Yeah, they don't bring him up either. They don't bring that up either, yeah.
Yeah, because if he could move and do whatever he wants and then he just chooses not to as a form of intimidation, that could actually be like really fucking terrifying. Like, I don't want to go near that castle. Keep me away from that castle. Because we go in there, he's going to literally gobble everyone down, but they don't really even play into that.
No, he doesn't even chase them down. He's just...
I think the game in general just has this issue for me where like I'm just sick of the Hounds, the Four Hounds.
Oh, yeah.
They always show up. They're literally they are the parody of every Fire Emblem NPC of I can't fall here.
Yeah.
Except you get to hear it 4 times at every map.
They even have the same like defeat quotes sometimes. It's quite grating, honestly. I'm at chapter.
Yes.
I just did chapter 17, and some of them I've already fought 3 times, and they're still not dead. They're still going. They're still somehow living. Even I've killed like so they eventually they all have like extra health bars too. So I've literally killed them like 5 million times at this point.
Yeah, every single time they're just like, me personally, I'm not falling here.
Okay, I think we've personally killed that joke now.
Yes. On this channel, I'll keep it going.
Yeah, for sure.
For in perpetuity.
I will say with the Hounds, this is something that Fire Emblem has already been struggling with for quite a couple of games. Obviously, like 3 Houses has it, Fates has it, and for me, I think the main issue is that it makes the game and the people in it. It feels like it makes it feel much smaller because almost every single scenario involves the same people. So Fate is like. It has like 3 encounters with Takumi and then 3 encounters with Hinoka or something like that. It's not just a repetition of it, but it's also like, is there no other general you could do? But I also think that the opposite results in like in another problem, which is that they have like the villain of the day or the villain of the chapter, where it's just like a generic bandit boss or a generic army general. If you look at FE1, for example, all the bosses, they literally have the same portrait. That's like that problem magnified to 1,000th degree. So when I think about like my criticisms of the Hounds have been used like that, and I've been defeated, but I can't fall here. That's one side of the problem. The other side is that you just have like very generic, boring bosses that you don't really invested in fighting. So I guess the question I have is like, is there a way for Fire Emblem to do this right at this point? Because I guess it just can't do boss scenarios or something that feels satisfying. Is that it?
It's a tough problem because, okay, well, I don't want to dog on FE1 too much because Take This Silver Sword is the greatest boss quote that we've had. The Silver Sword icon as dialogue. But like obviously with the older games, they just didn't have the space, to really develop too much. And then there is kind of the villain of the week thing. We're like, okay, we're going to run up there and beat the shit out of Macbeth or whoever and move on to the next, castle. I'd say Fates probably did it the best or came the closest to because like the bosses were like the playable characters of the other routes. So had that game been written better, it would have felt really like tragic to just be storming through the other route, killing every single person that you would otherwise be playing as. But otherwise, yeah, it really is just repeat all of the villains over again and make a lot of the chapters feel inconsequential, or it's villain of the week, which sometimes they do in Engage, and it's fun when they do it. You always got to have the twin brigand bosses. But I don't know. That is like a tough. It's a tough thing to solve. I think Engage heightens it because it's usually you're fighting all the Hounds together at the same time.
Yeah, or like 2 of them or something, or like 3.
And if you were like breaking through them piecemeal across multiple chapters, it probably wouldn't be so bad. But of course, this game also doesn't want like Kill Boss to be just the biggest cheese objective in history anymore, which I'd say they thoroughly fixed.
They did that really well in gameplay. The multiple health bars was a genius idea. I absolutely love it. It works so well. They also used the multiple commander kill objective quite a bit, which is also really good because killing one boss is pretty easy, but killing multiple bosses is quite challenging. That works. That part I think is solid. I think there's room for an in-between approach. I think the GBA games to an extent do a pretty good job of having individual arcs leading up to killing like 1 or 2 villains. I think one of the better examples is Sacred Stones, where you have the Grado generals, and you only fight each of them once, or you recruit them, I guess, in the case of Dusel. Spoilers. But like, for example, someone like Valter is a recurring villain that pops up every now and then and does something. You can argue about like whether he does is not is like, good idea, but Valter is portrayed as an insane person, so he doesn't do the right thing, and that's completely fine. And depending on what route you're doing, you also see Kalek doing similar things. You see him talk to like other bosses that you fight, which gives the other bosses a bit more significance beyond just, this is this chapter's boss. He's being hired to kill your army over and over again. Like there's a bit of a build up there to a final confrontation with both of them, and then you go on to fight. You fight someone you've had in your army before. You fight someone who's seen in cutscenes a couple times. There's like one or two characters that you fight multiple times, but it's really not nearly as egregious as it is in like Fates and Three Houses and this game and Engage. I think that approach probably is the best happy medium you can get. But I definitely think that it's a spectrum you got to move on a little bit, and it definitely takes a lot of writing finesse to get it just right. I think this game took a bit of a lazy approach to it with the bosses, to say the very least. And I'm only at chapter 17. I have no idea how many more times I have to fight the hounds. So I might have to emphasize that again in the next podcast as well.
Every map, all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, because you do need like the build up, and I think also one thing that helps is that from a mechanical standpoint, I think that Engage is the first Fire Emblem game where like bosses as a thing are fun to deal with, because sequencing attacks matters because of break and because of backup units and because of the multiple health bars. So like they're actually fun. They're not just a really stat buffed random dude like Henning, where it's just, okay, I'm gonna click through all of my battle forecasts, find the one that works and hope it works out, and if it doesn't work out, we're restarting the map, or this person's just dead and I gotta hope it works out. But the effect is that it gives more importance to just random like nobodies in the story. And so then if you want to make it feel threatening, you got to use the hounds, and then it uses them over and over again. And so it doesn't feel like there's a build up. There's not like a, oh man, this isn't the Mavier map. This is the everyone map for the fifth time.
Yeah, that's one concern I have personally with chapter 17, what I just beat. So I guess slight spoilers if you have played up to 16 but you don't want to know about 17, because 17 is worth going in blindly. Like you definitely don't want to know. But in 17 you fight all four of them across different corners of the map, and they all have emblem rings as well. It's a very epic encounter. I'm a little worried that this is where the game peaks, personally. I haven't peaked beyond this chapter, but it's like you fight Vale as well, and you fight like a resurrected Hyacinth, which I mean, that part is like, okay, I didn't really care about that too much, but everything else about that map is pretty good. With regards to like the gameplay and finding out bosses and being scared of them rushing you and everything, it works quite well. But now that I've beaten them with emblem rings, how can they possibly top that? Like, you don't need to give me an answer, Bopper, because you've played a little bit further than that. But I guess this is for the comment sections to think about in their heads a little bit. Like, how can they possibly top this encounter? Obviously, Sombron is still out there somewhere, not moving and not doing anything about this. But that's the only piece, the only tool they have left to up the ante on an encounter to me is having him involved. Everyone else I've already beaten with emblem rings, no less. Like, what else can possibly be a threat to my army? I guess this maybe, if I had to speculate and like guess, it's probably where Alir's army starts to get the overhand on them, actually like starts kicking their butts, like even within the story. That's all I could think of, but I don't even think that's super satisfying. That's what I'm worried about. Did you have the same feelings when you were like done with 17?
Yeah, 17 really felt like a peak, and there were two things. One, I'm not going to get into details of this for you, but I will tell the comment section that I love chapter 20, and I don't know what people think about that. But also, if Fire Emblem Engage is supposed to be a celebration of Fire Emblem for the 30th anniversary, can we think of something more iconic in the series than like shitting the bed for the final fourth of the maps and just having them be awful enemy spam that's meaningless? Like that's the series iconic trait at this point, honestly. No one talks about this, but it's in every game.
Yeah, you talked about it in a video, right? Like, I think you talked about it in a growth video.
I don't know. Oh yeah, because it's like every single Fire Emblem game. Like, how do you plan around it? Oh, we'll just throw 1 million dudes into every map. You just have Battle Before Dawn and Cog of Destiny and that Sacred Stones map where there's 800 like gargoyles and cyclops coming out of the woodworks, and Radiant Dawn maps where you kill 40 people in one enemy phase with Ike.
I mean, this game is not going to be any different from what I can tell with Ike.
No.
We put like the defenses on him and with like Ragnell and everything. Yeah, that's probably going to be a lot of this game too. But at least I feel like this game is a pretty decent anti-cheese job sometimes with that. With like enemy backup units getting chain attacks and everything. That chips down your units quite effectively. So
it really does.
Yeah, but hopefully it doesn't just like slow down the pace without adding any fun to it. That's the main worry I have
Yeah.
right now. But I haven't looked at any of the late game maps yet. I've just seen some people rant about how stupid they are with a bunch of spoiler tags next to it. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I think
thought-
I'll have a good time on my first playthrough at the very least, and then we'll see where it goes from there. It hasn't been bad at all yet. The gameplay has been consistently good in this regard too for me. Even the dense maps so far have been entertaining for me.
Yeah,
Well, but that's just me personally.
Yeah, we'll get at least there. I'm just going to speculate. There's going to be at least one map like Clash, where there's just going to be just literally just 75 enemies at all times. I guess the Sigurd Paralog does it. I don't know if you've messed with the Paralogs, but
I have messed with Paralogs and not Sigurd Paralog. I'm going into all those like as blind as I possibly can.
yeah, they are interesting. I will say the least.
Yeah, I would love to talk in depth about the Paralogs that I have played, but we're already an hour in, and I think we've discussed plenty of things. So this is probably a good time to sign off. But that is a great idea for a topic to bring up on a possible next episode. So,
Yes,
Bopper, thank you for your thorough analysis of Engage and everything that came with it. Appreciate having you on. And
thank you for having me on.
No problem. And to you, the listener, thank you for listening, watching, falling asleep, whatever it is that you did. And I hope to do the same with you next time. See you around.